give you a quick background just into my kind of journey into this career. Background was engineering, worked a few different jobs in aviation, and then eventually got into Atlantic instead of FU6 in the bank. So Kyle's gone through the process of how to kind of journey through it. I basically started in Atlantic in July of 2015, end of July, early August, and finished in early November 2016. It was about a 15 month process. It was 3.5 months before I got a job in Ryanair. And then I went into Ryanair on a little bit of an unusual route, which was through their cadet graduate program, where just based, depending on what your background is, I won't talk too much about it, but something that's worth kind of considering if you have any interest in kind of not just kind of flying roles. They run a program where you do kind of 12 months between head office and flying. So it's actually quite an interesting program. It's well worth it. At the time, I probably thought I would have loved to have just gone straight to flying. In hindsight now, it's probably the best decision I made career-wise. So then I started my type rating in April of this year. I did that in East Midlands. It's essentially runs over kind of 2.5 months. So you do your initial first week of an introductory week. They'll pretty much just give you the all your kit and kind of explain to you how kind of the airline runs and their values, that kind of stuff. And then they'll send you home for 2 weeks of sort of self-study. So they give you really good CBTs. CBT is based, it's kind of a condensed version of the manuals for the aircraft. You still want to read the manuals for the aircraft, but they're built based on feedback that's come from past exams and from examiner inputs as to where cadets generally tend to be weak in terms of knowledge on the aircraft. So it's a really good system. I believe it's called Pegasus. Do that for 2 weeks at home, along with your set learning objectives. And then you come back and do 2 weeks of kind of full, very intense ground school in either East Midlands or Amsterdam, depending on which one you've picked. And then you'll do your exams. Exams are really nothing too bad, very much kind of ATPL level sort of stuff. None of us had any issues, to be honest. The whole class got through. There was 12 of us in our class, and as Kyle said, they're pretty much running every week, so they're well used to it. After you do your 2 weeks, then it's straight into the sim. You do 12 fixed base simulator sessions, so the same kind of make as Atlantic's ones actually. So again, that's another big advantage. You're kind of more comfortable when you sit into the seat the first few times. So you do 12 of those. They're 8-hour sessions to remember, so you'll do kind of 4 hours yourself with your sim partner that you're kind of allocated when you first start, and then you'll backseat for 4 hours, so you'll watch the other 2 guys do their session. It's really beneficial because you can take only so much in when you're actually doing it, but if you actually sit and watch someone else, you can spot the mistakes, and of course it's the same lesson that you've either done or you will be doing. So it definitely enhanced the learning process, so I really enjoyed that. And then you're into the full motion simulator, which is really good fun. It's kind of your first taste of what the aircraft will actually probably handle like. That runs over about another 2 weeks or so, if I remember. And then you do a license skills test, so that's with one of the examiners from any of the bases. We've tons of type rating examiners that come from all over. The guy who did mine was from Alicante, so you get a nice little bit of variety. Same as well with your sim partners. We're coming from all over, so my sim partners from Bilbao, so the guys in my class, French, Polish, Czech. Like, it was really nice and diverse actually, so it was good fun. After that then you'll move to your base training. So the base training, it'll depend on the weather. Generally Ryanair are really good. Do it either in East Midlands, Prestwick, or sometimes they go all the way over to Shannon. So generally they'll find good weather. We have an aircraft, probably the only airline in the world that has an aircraft dedicated to base training. So base training, is just where you'll do 6 touch and goes. So you'll land, take off, 6 times to get the aircraft signed off your license. The first time you fly the real aircraft, no passengers, it's totally empty. So we have a slightly smaller version of the 737 to do it, and it does corporate flights as well, which is quite a little interesting fact. So yeah, you'll do that within about a week. You'll be finishing your flight rating. After that, then it's pretty much on to line training. So they'll stamp your license. Again, that literally just took about a day to get sorted. It was a very quick process, and then within about 2 weeks, probably 2 weeks of finishing my type rating, I was on to the line. So I did my line training in place in East Midlands. I stayed there, I liked it so much. It's actually a really nice place. Accommodation was cheap, pubs were quite nice. There was a nice stream of other kind of pilots and cadets in the area, and it was actually a really nice place. It was a right size in the sense there's only 11 aircraft based there. Give you a sense of our scale, 11 aircraft would be another airline, but for us that's actually a reasonably small base. So you got to fly with a lot of the same people. So again, that really enhanced the line training. Line training, you're set specific objectives, but it's just normal flying the line with just a more experienced captain, say, whose job it is to just make sure you kind of hit certain targets. So it runs over about 66 sectors. The average is probably maybe 70, I think I was told, 70 sectors. Most people, you can do it. 66 is no real issue. And that takes about a month and a half to 2 months. It'll depend on whether you're summer or winter. They have to kind of schedule you in. The roster for line training is generally 4-4, but then obviously once you're finished line training, you move on to your proper roster, which is 5 on, 4 off. So a typical week for me, you'll do a block of 5 days on earlies, 4 off, 5 days on lates, 4 off. It is rigid. That's how it runs. It's fantastic. Most guys I know, people in some of the other airlines out there, it's random rosters. They're trying to organise their personal life. Probably the hardest thing I would say about this job now is just trying to put personal life around. So it really helps that I can project months and months in advance. I know I have a cousin's wedding in April. I don't even have to ask for the time off. I know I'm going to be off on those days. If you fancy making a little bit of extra cash, if it's summertime, you can go in. The IT side of things is brilliant, but on your iPad, the electronic flight bag, they give you can even put down if you're available for days. So if my other half, she works Monday to Friday, she's in work. If it's a Monday that I'm off, there's nothing else going on, you can always put yourself down as available. And I have been called several times, particularly in the summer months as well. So there's a chance to make extra money like you want, to go in as kind of a standby day, or you just leave it blank. Don't those are your off days. So to do duty day, how does it start? Report time 45 minutes before you start a flight. Typically, probably early days you might want to go an hour and a half, but the best thing is everything you need essentially for the flight is on your iPad. So while I eat my breakfast or when I'm getting up in the morning, I can download all the weather and all the information I need for the day, and I can check it before I even leave to go to the airport. So I can turn up at the airport a few minutes before report time, print everything off, we can sign it, and we can go. There's no messing around in Ryanair, and that really appealed to me, to be honest. There's no prolonged hanging around, kind of no messing anyway, so it's good that way. Flight times then, your day, it'll depend on where you're based. East Midlands is great, we've got a lot of 2-sector days, just down to Alicante and back, places like that. A couple of longer days where you might do a 12, 13, maybe even 14-hour day from when you start to when you finish. It's extremely rewarding. It's generally, for me, having worked 9-to-5 jobs before in the past, this is an easy number. I truly, flying airlines, there's tough days, but honestly, it's very rewarding. You can see your work. Your work's very tangible. I worked in offices where, the stuff that you're doing, it's very hard to visualize whether or not this is making an impact. You physically move 189 people from A to B. It's quite rewarding. So it's a really good career from that point of view. That's more or less, in terms of, Kyle's already touched on it, in terms of why you might be interested in getting into Ryanair. Big part for me is job security. Job security wasn't something I thought about before I necessarily wanted. I wanted to get the first job I could get and just get in the door. But what I'd say about it is I have friends in some competitor airlines now who are looking to get in because they're looking, the price of fuel is going up. Brexit is a big potential issue for the whole industry, regardless of where it is. And people want to get in the right place, right seat at the right time. Because unfortunately, when if airlines do start to kind of go on the downhill, they'll start, it's first in, last in, first out kind of mentality. So people are already getting kind of pay freezes. Whereas for us, we're kind of increasing. We're expected to carry about 10 million passengers over the Christmas period. It's up from last year. So it's all headed in the right direction with us. So that was a really big thing. Stable roster, annual leave, so you get a month of the year off. So you can apply, you get 3 choices, and they'll give you a full month. And depending on what your contract is, it'll be paid month off of the year, which is fantastic. So I already know next December I have a whole month off, and it's great. And that's generally just to keep our hours in line with all the EASA stuff for 12 months.
No,
that's grand. Right, cool. If you have any questions anyway afterwards, I'll be outside. You can chat away to me, your email if you want. Send me an email twice if you're going to answer. Thanks very much. Cheers.
All right. Okay.